kind of flooding in.
Okay, so recording is starting now. I'll just hit continue.
Yeah, and people are just starting.
Oh yeah, I can see the numbers going up.
Perfect. Hi everyone. We'll just give it a few moments for everyone to join before we get started. Hi everyone, that's just joined. I'm just going to give it another minute or two just to give everyone just a chance to join before we start. So I think we might just get started, and people can join, continue to join as the session goes on, and all of the slides and stuff and the recording of the session will be made available afterwards for anyone that registers, because I do understand some people just emailed to say that they couldn't make it. But hello and welcome, and my name is Danielle Curtis and I'm the legal officer for the Public Interest Law Alliance. So firstly, thank you for attending today, and I do hope you find the workshop useful. And then I'd also like to extend a thank you to Aoife, Kelly-Desmond and Eithne Lynch for their presentations today. So,
hi everybody.
Hi, yeah, and Eithne and Aoife are just there in the background. So yeah, I'll just kick it off by giving you an overview of Pila. So Pila was founded in 2009, and we're a public interest law network that seeks to bridge the gap between the legal community and civil society. And in doing so, we promote the use of law to advocate for social change. So we're a project of FLAC, and the centerpiece of our work is really the Pro Bono Referral Scheme. And that's a program which supports organizations such as yourselves to obtain pro bono legal assistance where they don't have the requisite financial resources or expertise. So the referral scheme is made possible due to our incredible alliance of legal professionals. So we currently work with over 45 law firms with more than 2,500 solicitors and 7 in-house legal teams, more than 350 barristers, 12 law schools, and 180 plus NGOs and independent law centres across Ireland. So furthermore, the Pro Bono Pledge was launched in November 2020, and it shows a further commitment from the legal community to pro bono work. So the pledge provides a common definition of pro bono, a commitment to a minimum aspirational target of 20 pro bono hours per lawyer per year, and a mechanism to benchmark that process through. So just focusing in on the impact of our work. So we were founded in 2009, and in 2020 alone, Pila directly assisted 210 social justice organisations. We took on 200 new legal advice and litigation referrals from our partner NGOs. We facilitated 4 law reform working groups tackling issues such as disability rights, traveller discrimination, and barriers to public interest litigation. And we ran 9 legal education sessions, training almost 400 NGO staff as well. And now we'll move on to kind of the reason we're all here and reflecting on our centerpiece of our work, which is the Pro Bono Referral Scheme. So the scheme is open to charities and social justice organisations that work to benefit the marginalised and disadvantaged people in Ireland. So NGO partners can receive help on any legal need for which they do not have the resources or in-house expertise. Our one exception is that we do not assist with internal organisational conflicts. And you'll see as we run through how you can access the scheme, that once a particular legal need has been identified, Pila will invest time in understanding the specific legal question to be answered before referring the matter to the pro bono legal professionals. So the types of assistance that you can get from the scheme, they vary, but there's quite a number of types of assistance that you can access throughout the scheme. And I know Eithne and Aoife will reflect on some of them in their presentations. So you can receive legal advice on organisational issues or in line with policy and campaign work. So good examples of this support are review of governing documents of an organisation or internal policies such as employee contracts, handbooks, data protection policies, or even child protection policies. We also assist in facilitating law reform working groups. So this is where lawyers and NGOs come together to work to implement social change. We do strategic litigation support. So this includes pre-litigation advice and casework on strategic cases that might benefit a wider group. And Pila has actually assisted just over 160 cases at a pre-litigation and litigation stage. And a really good example of this in action is the Blind Legal Alliance and the Right to a Secret Ballot case. So Pila would have initially obtained a senior counsel opinion on the matter, and then a law firm would have taken it on and ran the case for the person in question. We also facilitate legal education sessions. So these are either aimed to better equip the NGO staff themselves, or even in some instances in a project that we're running at the moment, the service users in navigating the area of law that they're working in. And then we also have our bigger kind of piece of work, which are impact projects. So this is where a law firm and an NGO forge an ongoing partnership to fill an unmet legal need. And a really good example of this in action is the Mercy Law, Focus Ireland and A&L Goodbody housing law project, which I'm sure both Eithne and Aoife will reflect on this in their presentations. So this is where we have kind of more of an ongoing relationship between the legal practitioner and the NGO. So we'll now move on to how your organisation can access the pro bono referral scheme. So it's very straightforward. So you will send an initial inquiry to myself and you just email danielle.curtis@flac.ie, outlining in brief the nature of your query. On the basis of that, I will generally schedule a follow-up call to discuss your referral in detail. And this is where we really kind of see if we can identify if there's a legal issue or question that Pila might be able to assist with. And then following this call, you'll be sent a pro bono referral memo, which is just a really straightforward application form. And then on the basis of that application form, we'll assess whether your query can be put through as a referral. And some of the things that we consider is it a social justice organisation? Do you have a campaigning or law reform focus? Does the organisation have the resources to cover its legal costs? Is it a purely policy or legal issue? Does the request have a wider public interest, or is it a private law matter? And is this an issue where just one lawyer can provide a legal opinion, or is it a more substantial piece of work in which a number of lawyers or NGOs might be involved in the matter? And a good example of this is where we might be contacted by one or two organisations with the same kind of systematic issue, and then we might put together a law reform working group to pull out a larger piece of work on it. Then on the basis of that assessment, if you were kind of deemed eligible for the referral scheme, we'll then refer the query to the Alliance. So that really large alliance of legal professionals that I referred to earlier will then send the query out to them, and they will put in expressions of interest. And once we find a match, Pila will then send an introductory email between the lawyer and the law firm and the NGO, sharing things like contact details, if there are any key dates, and then any kind of key documents that would have been provided. From this point onwards, it's for the NGO and the lawyer to develop a working relationship. But in some cases, a good example of those being impact projects, Pila can take on a more hands-on role in assisting the development of this relationship. And no matter what the referral is, Pila always remains on hand to both parties to assist at any point in time. Then the only thing is, if the NGO requires further assistance, so it's usually a once-off relationship between the law firm and the NGO. So if your NGO in question requires further assistance, you must submit a fresh query to the referral scheme. And that's absolutely fine. There's no limits on how many queries you can submit into the scheme itself. But it's generally one query per that is dealt with by the lawyer. It doesn't develop an ongoing relationship between the NGO and the law firm or the legal practitioner. So then we monitor the impact of the referral, and we generally seek feedback from both the NGO and the lawyer. And then NGOs are generally about 6 months after the completion of the referral are asked to complete an impact assessment form just for our own recording and to see the overall benefits of the pro bono referral scheme. I'll now hand over to Aoife, Kelly-Desmond, who's the managing solicitor for Mercy Law Resource Centre, and Aoife is just going to reflect on accessing the pro bono referral scheme from an NGO perspective, and then also the impact project which is in place between ANL Goodbody Mercy Law Resource Centre and the Focus Ireland.
Thanks, Danielle. So I'm Aoife, I'm the managing solicitor at Mercy Law Resource Centre. I might just tell you a little bit about what Mercy Law does, just because it's quite relevant, I suppose, to the type of project that we ended up doing through Pila with ANL Goodbody. So we're a registered charity and an independent law centre, and we primarily provide free legal advice and representation to people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness on social housing and related social welfare law. We do also provide some other services around a befriending service. We do policy and advocacy work, and we provide training and organisational support on housing law issues. But our primary work is free legal advice and representation. So this project that we've been doing with ANL for the last number of years, it came about in kind of 2016, 2017 in the context of the housing crisis, which was continuing to deteriorate at the time. We primarily operate at pre-COVID times by running legal outreach clinics in places that are accessible to people who are at risk of homelessness or are homeless, for example, in homeless hostels, community centres and things like that. And at this time, we found that the volume of queries we were getting and also referrals we were getting from organisations who were working on the front line with people was just outstripping the capacity that we had as a service to actually provide. And that was kind of both generally because of an increase in queries, and then also something I think anyone here who's from a smaller charity will understand that we have a full-time staff of 6, 3 of us are solicitors. So with a staff that size, if you do have 1 or even 2 staff members temporarily absent for any reason, it has a huge impact on your capacity, and there just isn't the internal bandwidth to completely fill the gap. So we were looking for a way to ensure that the legal need that was there could still be met, even if we were not at a size that we could deal with every query that was out there at particular points in time. So we ended up reaching out to Pila to look at trying to design a proposal for a project that we could do with a law firm where they would help take on some of those legal cases and effectively extend the capacity for that legal service we provided in Ireland. And Pila's role in this was really important because this kind of a project, it was a new thing for us in ANL, or sorry, in Mercy, and this specific type of project would have been new for ANL as well in the housing area. And for a project like this to work, it needs to be well designed and it needs to be well planned, because this was initially going to be for a 6-month pilot. It's now been going on, I think, for about 4 years. So it's a long-term commitment. It's a lot of resources on both sides. So it needs to be thought through well. And that's where Pila, with their kind of expertise on how pro bono projects operate, were able to provide that support to help us design a really clear, well-articulated project. And then Pila were to put that proposal out to their network to try and find partners who could help with it. We ended up building on conversations we were having with ANL Goodbody, who had an established pro bono practice already at this time, on how they could potentially be the partner for that project. And what we ended up landing on was that ANL Goodbody solicitors effectively took over operation of one of the clinics we were running with Focus Ireland, where they would meet the clients and take on the legal cases from that clinic. And then our role was to provide training and support to the solicitors to give them the capacity to deal with the housing law aspects that we specialise in. And I suppose from our perspective, this project has been hugely valuable to us. Firstly, because one of our strategic aims as an organisation is to increase the capacity of organisations to deal with housing law matters, because we would never be able to deal with every issue that comes up, and you shouldn't need to outsource to a specialist organisation to deal with a lot of housing law issues. So capacity increasing is a big part of it for us, and I suppose this has been the most directly, immediately impactful way for us to increase capacity in dealing with housing cases, by having this ongoing continuous link with the solicitors and A&L. And then also just on a more kind of basic organizational level, having such an ongoing relationship with the law firm is hugely beneficial to us. And, we've built up a great working relationship over the years. And, when we've had, kind of emergency capacity issues or things like that, it's great to have, people in A&L we can talk to and reach out to for some support. And then, Eithne will talk about this more, but I hope from A&L's perspective, that their solicitors have also been able to build up an ongoing expertise in our area, and it's kind of extending the skills of their solicitors as well. And I think it's been a really good, mutually beneficial project. And definitely having the Pila link, at the start to kind of design it well, and to kind of help as we go along with kind of how you monitor it and make sure it's running correctly, is also really important, because there's an expertise in how you set these things up that you're never going to have until you've set one up. So that's, I think, where Pila really come into it. So that's all I wanted to say about it. So I might hand over to Eithne now for her perspective.
Sure. Thanks a million, Aoife. So I guess before I suppose dive into that, I might just, I suppose, reflect a little bit, because I know Danielle spoke an awful lot there about, like, how to obtain pro bono support. And I might just give you, I suppose, a law firm perspective, and why, us as a law firm, we've been a long-standing supporting partner of the Public Interest Law Alliance. And I suppose we do that for a number of reasons. But I think the overarching reason that we do that is because we really feel that there is very much a need in Ireland for there to be a central place in which there really is a free flow of information, or what are the emerging social issues, who is talking to who, how can we come together collectively and really harness, as Danielle was saying, that amazing now emerging cross-sector support from law firms, practitioners, in-house teams. And certainly for us as a law firm on our own, we simply don't have the ability to have our finger on the pulse, to be having conversations with all of you amazing organizations that are here today. So that's why we believe it's so important to have, I suppose, an organization like Pila, who really is centrally placed to really understand, what those emerging issues are. So that's the overarching reason why we support Pila. Then I guess for the organizations on the phone here today, we take in referrals in from Pila, as Danielle was saying, really to support organizations to have good internal, robust mechanisms. And for us as a law firm, it's so helpful because before, rather than just taking a cold call into our reception, it's been thought out really clearly. We get a one-page memo setting out exactly, what your issue is, what the area of expertise in the law firm is going to be needed to support the response. And then certainly, for every law firm, it makes it so much easier then to identify which team that you need to go to get support on that. So again, certainly for us, it just makes it so much easier really to be able to deliver really high quality work much quicker. And I suppose a top tip for NGOs that are on the call here today as well, like, it is a professional relationship. So when we take in a matter into the firm, please don't be shy at that initial consultation when you're discussing the terms of engagement. Be very clear what your expectations are. Be very clear, is this extremely time sensitive? And try and agree at the very outset from the lawyer, look, what I'm really looking for is a very short memo, and then maybe a follow-up call, or actually I need something a little bit more detailed because we're going to be using it as part of a policy paper, whether it's intergovernment or as part of some kind of international complaints mechanism. So they're two very different things. So I think it's good at the very outset to kind of have those expectations. And I suppose the reason Danielle made that point is, if something new comes up, unless it's a clarification about the piece of work that you've been asked, it's better to go back to Pila, because unfortunately what might happen is it might come into the lawyer that you've been working with, say in A&L Goodbody, and they're an employment lawyer, and the query is about maybe trying to take out a new lease or amend the lease conditions. And that lawyer might be like, oh, I'll get back to that. And then all of a sudden it doesn't get responded to. So really, Pila is a safety net to make sure it goes back. And then more than likely it might come back into the firm. And certainly that's been our experience, and we're very happy to do that. But this is really, I suppose, the reason to do it is the quality control and the quality check. So they're just some top tips. I'm happy to take questions. And I guess, I suppose, obviously we've developed this impact project with Mercy Law and with Focus Ireland. And I suppose it came about, as Aoife was saying, is that there just was a need for individuals who were in a crisis situation to be able to access legal assistance and really not have to wait potentially a long period of time to get that. So I would say, from the perspective of any organization who's starting to think about, actually, we have a certain service that we think actually it'd be good to have, legal assistance on. I suppose part of the reason sometimes these impact projects maybe don't always succeed, it's because maybe there isn't the internal capacity in your organization to be able to kind of filter out the work that needs to go into the firm. So certainly for us, we started this pilot project with Mercy Law and with Focus Ireland. We said, let's try it 6 months initially. And really what happened in those first 6 months, in the first month, our solicitors, they shadowed Mercy Law solicitors. So our solicitors went in, they shadowed, they saw kind of what the appropriate approach was. And then I suppose by the time I joined the firm, the project had been up and running maybe about 9 months. And, I'll be really honest, there were things that, weren't working fantastically well. And all of us had to sit around the table and say, okay, how can we do this better? And I think it was, there was a recognition on our part, okay, we need to do more training. There needs to be internal resources built for our lawyers. And we set about doing that. And I felt that then was our responsibility to do that, so that we weren't kind of continuously asking sometimes the same questions of Mercy Law or of Focus Ireland. And it meant that we became, more internally robust. The other thing that we did, and I think this helped more the relationship maybe than the legal expertise, is I suppose we had monthly check-ins. Pre-COVID, it was lovely. People would come down to Goodbody's office, and it was an hour, where Mercy would give us an update if there had been any, really big, changes in practice, whether at a legislative or at a court level. But then we'd also have the advocacy officers in Focus Ireland be there. And it essentially became a three-way dialogue where our lawyers would say, and I'm working on this, and this is what's worked successfully. So it actually brought us closer together as a group. And I suppose that when we first started the project, our lawyers were very much, solicitor-client relationship, we can't disclose anything. And that was to the detriment. So very much now, we keep the advocacy officer and Focus Ireland very much part of our case strategy and what we're doing. So that's kind of really, really helped kind of, progress it. And then I'd say as well, certainly because we spent a lot of time in the previous 2 years listening to each other and listening to what's working well and what's not working well, when the entire world changed 18 months ago, myself, the point of contact at Focus Ireland, and the then managing solicitor at Mercy Law, we got on a call and we're like, okay, how do we immediately now bring everything online? What do we need to do? How are we going to work? And as a result of that, there wasn't a break at all in our clinic. And we then also responded to Mercy Law and said, okay, we have a lot of lawyers. We're already doing some of this work for commercial clients. We're going to develop a toolkit where we'll pull together the information relevant that's coming out through COVID that we can share. Our own internal resources, we pulled it into a Word document and we shared. So it kind of, these impact projects, they start off as one thing and then sometimes they change and they evolve. And I suppose the success of them is that we very much listen to feedback, and one of the things that has kind of probably, I don't know, it's been a challenge for lots of people is that sharing of data. So we did a very kind of thing at the start where when we got our clients, intake form, we would get the authority to act form. We were allowed then share information. And I guess for me, as from a law firm perspective, it's been wonderful for me to see kind of lawyers maybe who were newly qualified now, 3-4 years on in their career, they're now teaching maybe newly qualified or trainees who are doing this clinic work. So definitely the confidence has grown, but we also recognize we would never embark on a project like this without a partner. This wouldn't be something that we would do without appropriate supervision, really good training. So that's important as well, because there are times when maybe clients are dissatisfied with the result or with the outcome. So it's very important that we kind of link in with Mercy Law. And then I would say finally, it doesn't happen very often, but certainly if there is a conflict, I think probably I could count on two hands how many times that's arisen where there's been a direct conflict and we haven't been able to act. And we've been able to then pick up the phone and say to the sisters at Mercy, look, we can't take this, but we can take something else. And I think, as Aoife mentioned, there was a period of time, probably over the summer, where they were a little bit thin on the ground, and we took in cases. And then this month, my solicitors are a little bit thin on the ground because we've been pulled into other work that's I suppose in an emergency situation. And in fairness, Mercy Law have been fantastic, and they have been like, don't worry, we'll take up some of the slack for a period of these couple of weeks. And then finally, for the NGOs listening, like I would say as well, for these projects as well, the approach that ourselves at Mercy Law took was that it was this weekly clinic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that format. It can be what works best for you. Like, I don't know, there might be different times of the year where you're like, actually we get queries about certain things, and you can start to build it out differently. And this one, it was around ongoing legal assistance, but an impact project can be something quite different. Another example is that we review medical legal reports for Spirasi. So it's not direct client assistance, but we've been able to support the capacity of the organization by having lawyers review those reports, because I suppose our lawyers would review expert reports as part of our commercial work. So it's just, I suppose, to give you a sense of very much these impact projects, I suppose they develop and they evolve through dialogue and through, I suppose, having really honest conversations in terms of what is and isn't possible. So that would be my takeaways. I hope that was clear, and happy to take any questions or add anything further to it, Danielle.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eithne. It's interesting to see the kind of perspective from both that Aoife provided of accessing the scheme as an NGO, and then also from the law firm perspective. There's, to ask questions, there's a raise hand function and a Q&A box. I'll just answer kind of more general questions about the pro bono referral scheme, or maybe if you have some follow-on questions from some of the comments that Aoife or Eithne would have had. We do have one question, I'll just read it out. So what would the usual timeline for sending a request for a memo to be a part of a policy paper to the reception of the memo, just to have an idea of how much advance contact to Pila needs to be made? I suppose I can probably reflect on the timelines from the filtering kind of stage and the Pila perspective of it. So the pro bono referral service is one of the kind of key centerpieces of Pila's work. So we take quite a proactive approach with it. So if I get a contact from an organization with an initial query, it's generally, I would say, 7 to 10 days of kind of turnaround of trying to organize a call with the organization, and then getting that kind of identifying the key legal issue, and then getting the referral memo sent across, and then for me to send it out to law firms. In terms of the matching process, this depends on a number of kind of variables. So I suppose Eithne might be able to talk from the law firm perspective. So it depends on law firm capacity at the time, and whether or not I'm able to seek a match. And it also depends on the area of expertise sought. So how kind of niche that is. So I don't want to give a how long.
Yeah, Danielle, I can come in on that. Like, I would say, if you're working on a piece of policy and you know that it's I don't know, pre-budget submission, or you're doing a shadow report on, Ireland's response to, housing or children's rights, or as some kind of UN shadow reporting process. If you know in advance, okay, that's coming up, the earlier you can get in, the better. But I would say we have done, like, so when we get requests in, like, for example, we would have done a couple of research projects that fed into policy work over the summer. And generally speaking, the organization, when they send into us, we would have a 3 to 4 week turnaround. And that would, so we did one on parole during the summer, we did one on rainbow families. And then I would say to people, look, this is the turnaround. So when my lawyers put up their hands, if they can't do it in that turnaround, I'll be like, look, maybe this project isn't for you. But I do think it's really important when you're talking to law firms, be very clear about that. Because otherwise, if there isn't a target and if there isn't a date by which it's done, it can become one of those things where it's an extension after extension. So I would say that's really important. But I would say where you might struggle, or where Pila might struggle, is if a piece of legal research or a contribution to a policy paper is required. Perhaps the deadline is 3 days time, and that can be more challenging. And it has happened. And to be fair, credit to Pila, within the network, like Pila will do its very best and will put in direct asks, and I've taken in those direct asks into our firm. But it's not without its challenge. So I would say the more time you can give in advance of putting in the request, great. But when the request has gone in, be very clear about what your optimal turnaround is. Because then, that's about communication. The law firm is very clear. Then we know, okay, this is our deadline and that's what we need to work towards.
Yeah, definitely. And even be clear in the kind of referral process of a key kind of deadline, because then it makes it easier for me to communicate to law firms that they take it on with the understanding that this piece of work needs to be turned around in 3-4 weeks. I think we've Caroline has just raised her hand, so I'll just allow Caroline to join us to ask her question.
Oh, she's just on mute.
Do we have?
So Caroline Coonan, if you just want to unmute yourself. You are now. You are now, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Such an interesting presentation, but actually I hadn't any question right at this point. Thank you. I mean, what if I can be permitted to make a comment? I suppose I hadn't realized the breadth of different initiatives and levels of involvement that Pila lawyers do have with NGOs, and how open it is that you could literally propose something in relation to a particular issue. I mean, the example was given there of the Spiracci reports, which might not be applicable to any but very few other NGOs, and you're all still open-minded enough to consider it and accommodate it. And I suppose I had thought of it as in a narrower way through my ignorance. So it's great to hear that, and it's great to hear of such a successful working partnership as the one we heard described this morning. So I think it's fantastic, and I'm delighted to be here this morning to hear more about it. And thank you all very much.
Thanks, Caroline. That's really kind.
Oh, thanks so much, Caroline. And at any point, if you have any questions, that's what Pila are here for, to kind of tease those questions out with NGOs and see if there is a legal issue that we can assist with. So even if you have like an inkling of an idea, do feel free to reach out, and that's the kind of the role that Pila will play in teasing that out with the NGO before making a referral.
We will, and thank you.
No problem.
Danielle, I see there's one specifically addressed to me, and if you want to read the other two, I'm happy to take that one from Jacinta.
Yeah, perfect. If you want to take that one first, and then I can run through the other two.
Perfect. So Jacinta, I think the question was, can you outline the filtering and transparency that's put in place? I can an NGO be informed of your client base where there might be a conflict of interest. So I guess the examples that I had there about housing, I suppose the way that project works is we will meet the person at the clinic, we will obviously triage it, and then if we have more information where there is a direct conflict, whether for example there might be a receiver involved or different things that where we know that we're already on record. In that situation, the person is not left without legal assistance. The way we've set up our project is that person is referred into Mercy Law. So the person is never left without legal assistance. In terms of, I suppose, I think it's like, can an NGO be informed of your client base, like in terms of our commercial client base? Probably not. In same ways we wouldn't inform our commercial clients necessarily of who our pro bono clients are. I'm not sure if that's, maybe I'm taking up wrong, but so please feel free to raise your hand. And I suppose we certainly wouldn't talk publicly about the pro bono legal work that we do with pro bono clients unless like that is part of an impact project and we've got client consent and all of that. So I hope I answered that. If not, I can have another conversation with you about it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Eithne. We've had a question. So would a more general research project on a discrete legal issue, example, consolidating, preparing information for publication rather than legal advice as such, be something that would fit within the NGO referral scheme or be of interest to legal partners? I think general research projects on legal issues or legal topics are always welcomed by legal partners, and
I can take that. No, absolutely is the answer. And we as a firm have done a lot of that work where to support an NGO's internal capacity, they want to update. For example, we've done over the years a lot of work with FLAC, where we've updated the FLAC information leaflets, and that would be part of it. And us, along with other firms, would do that. It's not just our firm. Like the Pila has a huge network, so that would be So the answer is yes.
Yeah, so it is something, and if it's something that we can, what I'll do is after this call for everyone who's attended, I'll send across the presentation, but also the pro bono referral memo, so you can kind of have a look at it. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to send that initial kind of inquiry email, and then we can have a look at setting up a call and seeing what exactly the referral you want to make is. What are the top key legal issues that you've managed to date from NGOs? Oh, they vary so much. So we do kind of organizational level items. So it might be handling leases and licenses and different kind of agreements, or internal policies, employment contracts, drafting data protection policies, reviewing policies for organizations, to running legal education series recently on immigration and the Dublin 3 regulations, to family law information sessions. So they vary very widely. And obviously with the housing law clinic, that is housing law and social welfare law. So if you look at on the Pila website, there are case studies and examples of previous projects and previous referrals that we've had, and that will give you a good kind of broad overview. As well Danielle,
I was just going to say, because Pila you guys have that amazing impact project.
Yeah, I was going to say
impact report, and I would say the majority of the queries that come in, they are that kind of the governance, and then they will be broken down more than into the ones that Danielle. But I'd say for the queries, Danielle, my sense is that kind of those ones that are more specialized, probably they're still there, but they're probably the majority are organizational.
Yeah, the majority, I'd say probably about 60% or so, and then you get the kind of legal education and law reform, and then you have the kind of impact project pieces as well. But that report I can share it as a resource after this is a really good insight into the types of work that Pila has assisted with. Do Pila offer services on an organisation level only, or can an organisation refer individual cases for service on behalf of the service user? We do facilitate individual referrals on behalf of an NGO. So it might be a case of a service user for, say, for example, an immigration service need assistance from a lawyer in processing a humanitarian application for leave to remain, and those are kind of examples. I suppose it depends. Some law firms just don't take on individuals as part of their policy, but we do have a number of law firms who are part of the alliance who will take on the individual queries through an NGO. So that the answer, I suppose the short answer is yes, we do.
And I think, Danielle, just from a law firm perspective, I suppose we're always really cognizant that, Pila is, at the moment, one full-time member of staff. So I think sometimes certainly for like organizations on the call here today, like if you're finding that you're finding a lot of service users, whether it is, access to disability benefit, or trying to appeal a negative decision before the WRC, or even just accessing kind of equality rights before the WRC, that in itself, sometimes that's why maybe impact projects have been created. So rather than, say, for example, with Mercy Law, rather than Mercy saying, okay, can we refer in another 10 clients this week, and can we refer in another 5 next week, it was taking a step back and saying, okay, well, how can we start to refer in a way where a law firm will start to kind of have a system in place to enable that? Because I think otherwise, Danielle, you're too polite to say this, but it can be quite time consuming for Pila to kind of have individual referrals coming in. And so that this is a way that really helps, I suppose, support an unmet legal need, but in a way that kind of is I suppose efficient. But I know for us as a firm, we have taken in where an organization has contacted Pila and they have needed a law firm to come on record to take on a case. We have absolutely done that. But it certainly from a law firm perspective, when it comes in and it's ad hoc, like, when it comes in, sometimes also it needs to happen very, very quickly. So sometimes as well, it's getting the right people in the firm at the right time. An organization can be disappointed when it's just not possible to happen, so that's why these impact projects have been created, so that it allows for kind of a filtering and a throughput of cases as they come in weekly.
Yeah, and I think the impact project is a good way of formalizing that, rather than just me at Pila being inundated with a number of kind of individual queries. But if we notice a pattern that that's something we can explore with a law firm of potentially setting up an impact project, and it just makes it a lot more kind of efficient and streamlined. I don't think we've any more questions. I will follow up with everyone by email after this session with the slides and the pro bono referral template, the memo, and the impact. And as I said, feel free to respond to that email if you want to kind of send in an initial inquiry at any point in time. That's what we're here for. And lastly, I just really like to thank both Eithne and Aoife for coming on board today and presenting and giving a really good kind of useful overview of the perspective from an NGO accessing the service, but also one of our alliance partners in providing that pro bono legal support as well.
Thanks very much, Danielle.
Thanks so much.
And thanks for everyone for being here today.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, there's a few question. Sorry, maybe it's just a thank you. Sorry.
Oh wait,
just a thank you.
Oh, it's just a thank you. Sorry. It's good though that you spotted it.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.